Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our HR check-in. It's been a while since we've been able to hold one of these, and we thought there's so much happening around. Why not pop up an HR check-in and see how you all are doing, give you some updates, and our timing could not have been more on point. Just yesterday, 3 new laws were passed in California relating to HR, and we're so grateful to have Ann Laguzza with the Works Consulting here to help guide us through these changes, help us figure out what we need to do going forward, and answer your questions that you have relating to HR issues. So as we go through this, please feel free and post up any of your HR related questions in that Q&A box that you see there at the bottom, and we'll make every effort to answer your questions during the session. We are also recording the session, and we'll make the recording available for everyone up on our website and up on our YouTube channel. So without further ado, oh, I didn't even say anything about myself. Forgive me, I'm so sorry. The nonprofit, but the whole introduction, I'm sorry, so sorry. My name is Christina Krishbaum, and I am the program manager for the Nonprofit Partnership, and we are very, very proud to be continuing to serve the nonprofit community for all of your capacity building needs. So whatever you're looking for in terms of education or consulting projects, please let us know. Send us an email at info@tnpsocal.org. You can also check out our upcoming events on that same website in our training calendar. And we do have a couple of really great things going on. In addition to, if you're interested in HR, which you're here, so why wouldn't you be? We actually have harassment prevention education coming on with Ann Laguzza as well. And in addition to an HR series. So if you take a look at our calendar, forgive me, our harassment prevention training will take place October 13th. So if you have employees that need to get certified for harassment prevention training by, I believe it's almost the first of the year, is that it? By January 31st of 2021?
Oh, it's December 31st.
December 31st. Oh, end of the year. Okay, so if you have employees that need to get that certification before the end of the year, please know that we have that offering October 13th, and that is from 1 to 3 p.m. And it can cover standard general employees and also supervisors as well. So there's 2 different price points in there. So take a look at those. And we're also coming up with an HR series that will be up on our calendar very, very soon. And I believe that's going to be happening in November. I'm really looking at how to manage virtual teams, how to supervise and provide guidance through virtual, and really overall looking at what our supervisors need to be aware of in terms of HR commitment and laws. Lots of really great stuff coming up. So we look forward to seeing you at our virtual events. And as well, I want to just do one last plug for Long Beach Gives. I'll do one at the end as well. But for those of you who are engaged in Long Beach Gives, you've been hearing about it for months. For those of you that something might be new for you, check out www.longbeachgives.org today. All the way through September 24th, we have a goal to raise $1 million for 150 plus organizations working in Long Beach. So it's an exciting campaign. This is only the 2nd year we're doing it, but we are so thrilled to have already have a level of success, and we're just about to break the 200,000 mark. So be part of this wonderful unifying campaign to grow more good in Long Beach by visiting longbeachgives.org today. You can share about the campaign, sign up as a peer fundraiser, or donate to one or several organizations that you want to. So thank you all so much for your time today. And with that, without further ado, Ann, the floor is yours. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, thank you. I'm so excited today because here's the funny thing is that when we decided to do this HR check-in, and even, as I was finalizing all the information yesterday, I was thinking, gosh, what's going to be new? And so I jokingly titled it What's New, because I was going to say to you, there isn't really anything new, but let's kind of go over some of the things you might have missed or you've forgotten. And then thankful for our governor, he signs 3 new laws yesterday, and 2 of them I had already added to the slides. And then this morning I got notification on the 3rd one, and I quickly updated the presentation. So those of you who decided to join are so smart, because you are going to get this information right away. Now, I am going to tell you, since the laws were just signed yesterday, you may have a number of questions that I will not know the answer to yet, because here's what happens when laws change. You are confused. We're confused in the HR world, and the attorneys are confused, and everyone's sort of sorting it out. And sometimes you unravel it as you go. I don't know if anybody, there's one situation you might have to deal with right away. The other ones are probably going to be a little bit down the road. But anyway, I'll certainly try to answer any of your questions. And then as things develop, we may end up doing another one of these to give more updates if we need to. So I just want to mention, like I do every time, the partnership as well as the Works Consulting, which is my company. We both have social media channels. We would love for you to follow us. I do put different information on each of my social channels. So if you keep up with me there, you'll also have up-to-date information. And with that, I think we're going to jump in. So just in case you don't know me, I do own the Works Consulting. We've been in business for 19 years. We will hit our 20th year in January, which I'm very excited about. And I've actually been in human resources and leadership development for 29 years. So somebody said yesterday, like almost all your life, which I had to pause for a second. I thought, well, it's been for a long part of my life, that's for sure. So what we do in our company is we provide human resources services in terms of compliance, and we also provide leadership development services. And we have been friends and partners of the partnership, the nonprofit partnership, for a very, very long time, probably at least 10, if not 12 of those years. So it's been a great partnership. Okay, so Christina said this, but I just want to tell you right now, don't wait. You can start throwing your Q&As into the box. You're going to probably have more after I talk. I did get a couple beforehand. I know a couple people emailed, and I will certainly do my best to get those now that we have some new law information. I'm going to be talking about that. And then I'm also going to be talking about things that you might have missed that I'm finding in my practice people didn't realize they were supposed to do, or just put it off and didn't get to it. So I'm going to be talking about that as well. Okay, so I'm just going to say this. This is kind of a great picture, I think, for how people feel about 2020. It's like the gum that's stuck on your shoe and it won't go away. And leaders are continuing to tell me they feel stuck and they just don't know what to do. And they almost feel like frozen in time, and they're waiting for things to go back to normal. And what I'm going to suggest to you is stop waiting. And just move forward, start focusing on moving forward with what you have, what you know, and the information you have. I think the more you're trying to go back to the way things are, the more stuck you're going to feel, because that puts a lot of uncertainty. We don't know a lot of things of when things might go back to normal, as people are saying. So I'm saying, you know what? Accept what's in front of you as this is the way things are, and how do we make your organizations as successful as they possibly can be, given the conditions you're currently working under. So take the gum off your shoe and get walking. So get out of here. Okay, so what's new? Okay, here was my joke, right? I was actually going to say there was nothing. But yesterday, our governor passed 3 laws that are going to affect pretty much all employers, and I'll give you those qualifications. So we do have some stuff that's new. Okay, so the first one, SB 1159. I tried to give you all of the Senate bills or the Assembly bill numbers so you can read them at your leisure. They're a mouthful to read, but you can read them. And I also always kind of give a plug for Fisher Phillips. Usama Kaf is on the board of the nonprofit partnership, and is a fantastic employment attorney, and their law firm is excellent with their updates. And if you are not on their list to get their legal updates, sign up. It is worth it. They do not spam you. You don't get a ton of wasted stuff. And they write it in such a way that it's so understandable. And if you're not signed up now, you can go to their website. It's Fisher Phillips. You go to legal alerts, and it'll tell you everything that happened. I don't get anything for plugging them. I'm just going to tell you they are a great resource for me in this entire year of 2020. They've been so great. And by the way, and I always know when you know there's a good law firm putting out good information, when other attorneys that you work with forward you the information from that law firm and don't work there. So then you know you're onto something good. So here's the deal. SB 1159, I'm just going to tell you it's effective immediately. So when the governor signed it yesterday, not only did he say it's effective right now, but by the way, it's retroactive to July 6th of 2020. And as far as we know, it's going all the way to 1/1/2023. Okay, so that is what we're going to be dealing with. And you only have until October 17th to comply. So you don't have a lot of time to go back to July 6th and comply on the 17th. Well, what am I complying with, right? Is that what you're asking? So here's the deal. Now, if the employer knows or reasonably should know that an employee has tested positive for COVID-19, they must report the following info to their workers' comp claims administrator, so your workers' comp company, within 3 days. So I'm going to back up just for a second and tell you, prior to this, it was really only if you had your employees back in the workplace did you have to report. So many of my clients do have employees back at work at the actual office, or were essential service providers, and they did have to report when someone got sick. Well, this doesn't say anything about where the employee works. So as soon as you know, or you reasonably should have known, that your employee tested positive, you have to report within 3 days to your workers' comp provider. You have to tell them that the employee tested positive, the date the employee tested positive, or the date the specimen was collected for testing. This is literally how it's written out of the law right now. So I don't know if it's both dates, or if the date you hear they got a specimen collected, that better be within the 3 days. So I would go for the date the specimen was collected personally. So as soon as you find out someone's getting tested because they think they're positive, I would be on the phone with my workers' comp provider. Now, I'm going to tell you, your workers' comp carriers are going to start educating you on this. They just found out yesterday too. So if all of you leave this webinar and pick up the phone and start calling your brokers, they're going to be just as unclear as everyone is right now. So maybe give them a day. If you have something you have to report right now, because you're like, but you have until the 17th, so you're good. So give them a day or two to like process it. So maybe talk to them next Wednesday. Give them a call next Wednesday. Maybe reach out today and say, hey, can I get an appointment to do a phone conversation with you? So give them a moment, but they will have some more guidance on this. Okay, you also need to report the specific address or addresses if your employee works at more than one place, because some people are doing like hybrid at home and hybrid in the office, of their place of employment during the 14-day period preceding the positive test. And then the highest number of employees who reported to work, and I'm assuming, again, this is how it's written, but I'm assuming that means in the office, in the 45-day period preceding the last day the employee worked at the place of employment. Now, I know the way that is written, it sounds like it doesn't include, it only includes people that are working from home, but in everything I'm reading right now, and again, forgive me if things change, it's any employee you've got to report, whether they work from home or not. But you would obviously report to your carrier that this employee works from home and they haven't been around anybody at the workplace. So that's the information you provide. The other important thing about this law, which I didn't get into a ton of detail here because honestly, it's a lot of mathematical calculation and it's confusing, is about outbreaks. And so now there's going to be a certain time that you have to report if there's an outbreak. And before it was very vague. It was like if I have 3 cases or if I have 4 cases and how much time. So it's looking at about, it looks at certain windows of time and how many positive cases do you have during that time. And then that's going to be considered an outbreak. And that also has to be reported. I think you only have a day to report outbreaks. But again, that information, more of that will be coming. And I'm hoping no one's in an outbreak situation right now, but even if you are, you're going to have time to report it. So what do you need to do? You need to go back to July 6th and identify if you know or reasonably should have known of any positive cases that you did not report to your workers' comp carrier. Positive cases, not just I'm sick or I woke up today and I think I have symptoms, I'm going to stay home, but actual tested positive, right? Or not just exposure, right? But actual tested positive. And see if you have any of those cases back from July 6th till current day, and then make an appointment with your workers' comp provider and talk to them. And you're going to tell them what information you have, and you're going to get all this information you can for each of those cases. Or at a minimum, talk to your carrier. They will provide you the information. Now, I'm suggesting you start with your broker and not go straight to making a claim so that you can make sure you report this exactly the way your carrier wants you to. And as I mentioned, I think you're going to see information in the next 5 to 7 days from your carriers guiding you on what to do. But if you're feeling particularly anxious, maybe you've had a number of positive cases, and you're like, oh my goodness, we didn't report any of those because they weren't people that were coming into the office or something like that, then you can certainly reach out to them. But I just want to let you know, you have until October 17th, but it is important that you don't miss that deadline if this applies to you. So, and then be sure to look up the outbreak presumption, pull up SB 1159 or go to Fisher Phillips, pull up this outbreak presumption so you can see there's like, if you're over 100 employees, there's a calculation. If you're under 100 employees, there's a calculation. And you want to make sure you understand that so you're paying attention if you are deemed as having an outbreak, okay, and what the reporting requirements are. So that's a big one. So I'm actually, it's going to look like I'm only talking about 2 laws, but the outbreak presumption was one and reporting is the other piece of that. So those are the laws you have to pay attention to. And then the next one that was big is about CIFRA. Okay, so I'm going to talk about both of these, and I think I see some questions coming up. So I'll take just a moment and answer questions sort of middle of the road if you have any about either of these, because I don't want to go too far ahead and forget, you guys to forget what you wanted to ask. Okay, so the first 2 laws are around workers' comp, right? And reporting and all of that, which we've got to do. Fine, we've got that. That's effective immediately, but we have some time. Now, the CIFRA expanded law is Senate Bill 1383, and this isn't effective till 1/1/2021. Now, anybody who just relaxed in their chairs, I'm going to tell you that's going to be here before you know it, because I don't know how many of you are already saying October and going, wait, what? It's October? So this is going to be here before we know it, and you need to prepare. So I'm going to tell you first about, so there is something called CIFRA, which we call California Family Rights Act, which up until yesterday has only affected employers with 50 employees or more. As of yesterday, our governor now says if you have 5 employees or more, you are now required to offer CIFRA. This is a huge change. And it's huge because there are so many ways you can make a mistake in administering CIFRA, and anyone who's small, I already feel for you. I already had my own little rant this morning about how you're going to manage this. So I'm going to explain it to you. And then again, I'm going to take a pause and answer any questions before we move on. So if you have 5 or more employees, you now must offer, as of January 1, 2021, you must offer California Family Rights Act. So what that does is it provides 12 weeks of unpaid protected leave for the following reasons: baby bonding, and that's either parent or, it doesn't matter who had the baby, the employee's own serious health condition, to care for a seriously ill family member. Now, you have to have worked for the company for a year and 1,250 hours. As far as I know, that regulation has not been changed, okay? So you must work for the company for a year and 1,250 hours, not 1,249 hours, not 1,000 hours, 1,250 hours. Okay, so that's how they're qualified from the 12 months preceding the date of the leave. If they've worked that time plus 1,250 hours, then they're eligible for this. What is leave? Leave means that I am holding the same job for you for 12 weeks, and I'm going to pay your health benefits at the same level that I paid them prior to the leave. So if you pay 100% right now for your employees' health benefits, when they go on CIFRA, they will get their benefits paid 100% for 12 weeks. If they pay $100 a paycheck, then you're going to have them pay $100 a paycheck. Whatever it is that you're going on right now will continue. You will need to keep their job for them. Can you temporarily replace their job? 100%. Can you permanently place their job? Well, all of us are at will, so we never do permanent, but no, you cannot. You need to give them their job back. I realize it might be inconvenient. It might be tough to train somebody. I get all of that, but it is what it is. Now, this 12 weeks, and you guys are going to want to write this down because I didn't put this in the slide. This can be used intermittently or altogether. So I may take 1 day of CIFRA each week until I max out 12 weeks. Or I may take 3 weeks together and then come back and then take 4 weeks later. So as long as I take my 12 weeks within a 12-month period, that's what I'm eligible for. So it can be used in different ways. So write that down. Make sure you write down intermittently, or it can be used all together. So the other thing the governor did, which is different, is, and this applies to all of you, remember, even those of you 50 and over right now, you got to listen to any of these changes. So here come the changes. It removes the 75 mile from the worksite requirement. So we used to say you have to work within 75 miles of the work site to be eligible. Well, it was kind of a joke for many of us in California anyway, how they were measuring that 75 miles, because it felt like it was all over the place. But that's gone. So it doesn't matter how close, if you have, if you have a total of 5 employees and they all work 100 miles from each other, it doesn't matter, okay? If you have 5 or more employees in California, you're under the requirement. So what CIFRA does now, which those of you who are 50 and over, and I know some of you are on here, they just define a family member as a minor child, spouse, or parent. Well, California has now expanded that definition of family member. So now it includes siblings, grandparents, grandchildren. It's actually always included domestic partners, but that's a new thing. They've added that in. Make sure I shouldn't say they've added it in. It's always been in there, but they made sure to include it in this. Adult children, regardless if they're dependent, because in the former CIFRA, you could take a leave of absence for a seriously ill family member if they were an adult child who was dependent. But now it doesn't matter if they're dependent, and children of a domestic partner. So the list has gotten much bigger for family members. So here, I'm going to list out so an employee, you have 5 or more employees, they can take a leave of absence, protected leave for baby bonding. It's unpaid, right? Baby bonding. They can take leave for their own serious health condition, and they can take leave for a seriously ill family member, but that family member designation is greatly expanded just for California. Now, here's why this is, first of all, that's a lot for many of us to handle. Second of all, there's another federal law called Family Medical Leave Act, which for those of us who have 50 or more employees those work a lot of times in conjunction with each other. They run concurrently. Well, federal law has not changed. So for those employers that are on here that are 50 or more employees, you are going to always have to be looking at FMLA and CIFRA and figuring out when they run concurrently and when they don't run concurrently. Because that would mean that potentially I could take 12 weeks of CIFRA and then I'd have another 12 weeks of FEMLA. So if I took 12 weeks for a family member, let's say a grandchild, and then I need 12 weeks later to care for a spouse, I would have 24 weeks of time off. I'm going to take the first 12 under CIFRA, the second 12 under FEMLA. And I realize for many of you, I'm speaking Greek right now, and I'm sorry about that. Leaves are by far one of the most complicated things to navigate in California. It's where employers make the most mistakes. It's where we spend a lot of time in our business. Some of you on right now, we help you write your leave letters, review your leave letters, navigate through all the various questions you get and documentation that you get. It is very complicated, and I feel for all of you, because unless you do it as often as we do, it is very hard to know. We don't know all the scenarios, but we know a lot of scenarios because we've seen them. So this is a big deal. Now, remember, this isn't in effect till 1/1/2021, but what I'm going to tell you right now is you've got it, no matter what size you are, if you're 5 or more employees, you're going to have to look at your policies and your handbook, because I guarantee you they're going to have to be rewritten, if nothing else, to expand the CIFRA. And we're going to need to make sure FEMLA CIFRA is written as 2 separate policies. I usually write it as 1 because they can run concurrent for the most part. We're going to have to write them as 2 separate policies. You're going to have to look at forms and see if your forms need to change, or create a form. How are people going to request it? What's your procedure? And get that all in line before 1/1. Now, one of the responsibilities that a lot of people forget, I actually, if you're taking notes right now, write this down. It's your responsibility to educate employees when they're eligible for this leave. Okay, so it's your responsibility to educate employees when they're eligible for this leave. It's not an employee's responsibility to go, oh, I want CIFRA leave. Your employee is going to say something like, oh my goodness, my grandchild is really sick and I need to take some sick days. Or my grandchild's really sick, can I take some time off? And you need to hear that and go, oh, you know what? We might have a leave you're eligible for. Let me tell you about it and what you would need to do in terms of documentation, etc. Why does anybody want to take a leave? Because somebody might say, well, I'm fine. I think I'll be fine. Well, they want to take it because it protects their job and their benefits. So you have to educate them about their rights. So you have to be listening. And this is why I feel for you small employers, because you already have so many things going on, but you've got to be listening and really paying attention to what they say they need time off for. And you're probably going to need to train any leaders that you have for that same sort of, even though they may not be the ones that administer it, at least know to say, oh, you know what, you need to talk to HR, you need to talk to accounting, or whoever it is that would handle this. Okay, so I'm going to take a small little breath here, and I'm just going to look through the questions. Someone asked if the reporting includes independent contractors. I didn't see that. So the California laws are laws for employees that the governor passed. Independent contractors are their own can of worms, but I'm going to tell you what to do. Talk to your workers' comp broker, and they'll be able to tell you. I don't think I mean, I wouldn't call on my clients if I tested positive, because I'm not their employee. So I doubt it, but you can certainly call your workers' comp broker. Okay, so let's see. Yes, Michael, it doesn't go into effect till 1/1, and I like your but just, start preparing for it. We got to start looking at handbooks and all of that. I don't know how employers are going to survive. I'm a huge proponent of treating employees well. And if you watch any of my social media channels, I talk about it all the time. And it's very important to me. This today was, my heart felt for every employer out there, because it's a lot. It's a lot in 1 year. I get it that maybe it's something we should be looking at, but it's a lot in 1 year. And I understand the reason it's coming out is because of COVID, but it's just a lot to manage in 1 year. And the issue is it puts you all at so much more risk for litigation. And just that's what worries me, because it's not easy. It's doable though. And I don't want to scare you. I can teach people how to manage leaves all day long. It is doable. It's just an extra task. What kind of proof do you need from staff? So you asked for medical documentation. And again, I expect there to be more information coming with all of this, because that's what always happens. But you would just request medical documentation. So even if they're taking the leave for a sick family member, they're able to get medical documentation. You can create a form that the doctor fills out if you want, or you can have the doctor write something. Medical provider, sorry, it doesn't have to be a doctor, but a medical provider. And yeah, so they have to provide documentation. It's not just oh, I want to take a couple. I had a client the other day call me, an employee said, I think I need to take 2 to 4 weeks off because of the air quality. And I said, wow, that's a range of time, right? Do they have a doctor's note? And so we got the doctor's note, and the doctor took them off for 3 days. So a little bit different than 4 weeks. So feel free to ask for documentation. Yes, part-time employees are eligible to take CFRA. So the qualification is, you've worked for me for the preceding 12 months to the leave, and 1,250 hours. So if they're short 1,250 hours, do not extend the leave, and I'm going to tell you why. Because if you start to say, oh, well, they're 1,249 hours, it's close enough. Well, then why wouldn't you just do 1,248 hours? What about 1,247? What about 1,245? What about 1,240? Right? Your needle starts to move, and then you're offering this to everybody, and you can't pick and choose, remember, based on who you like more or who's a better employee. Because I guarantee you, if it's an employee that's not doing that well for you, you're going to hold the line on that 1,250 in 12 months. So just keep it consistent. If they're under, they're under. 1 hour. I don't know if I've actually ever seen anybody under just 1 hour, but I have seen people at 1,200, and I've seen people at 1,000. So they're close, but not quite there. Okay, I'm going to get to this other question in a minute. So I'm going to go back to our presentation. So those are workers' comp, there are 2 new areas. CFRA, 1 new area. The workers' comp is a big deal, but I feel like, and maybe it is a bigger deal. Maybe many of you have more positive cases, but I haven't heard as many positive cases as I have heard of just people not feeling well. Even in my employer, and then my employers who were bringing people back have been reporting it, because that's been a requirement the whole time. So just partner with your broker again for that workers' comp, but please be patient with them and just give them a set up an appointment to give them a moment to catch their breath as well, because everybody is scrambling today. So what I thought we were mostly going to talk about is things that people should have done and may or may not have forgotten about. And so I wanted to talk about them and make sure you were on board with that. So I'm going to spend the last few minutes on this, and then I'll just open it up for questions. And I just made a list for you, and I'm just going to talk you guys through this. So make sure, the Emergency Family Medical Leave Act is the one that was part of the COVID. I actually have my poster here. You should have a poster up. I should have written that down. You should have your poster up. And let's see, put this, oh, you can't see it with my green screen behind me, but you should have your poster up. And here's the thing that came up, and I know that the partnership had asked to make sure I talk about this. There's a lot of discussion of this being a new law. And here's what was new about it. It's not new, but I'm gonna tell you what's new about it. Is that, you know what, I'm sorry, you guys, I just thought of something else. I'll tell you in just a second. Okay. The other thing is that what happened is this law was when put in, so this was, there's some paid time off. If you're not familiar, it's paid time off. It's up to 12 weeks for employees who have to stay home because the schools were closed, right? Or childcare was closed. So what happened is schools started opening, but they weren't going to school. The kids weren't going to school. So then when you read the law, it looked like employers did not need to offer EFMLA if the school was open, even if the child wasn't physically at school, okay? So this is kind of what now people are saying is, oh, there's a new law. And it's not really new. What happened though is the governor kind of reevaluated the description and said, listen, if you're, and this is on the Department of Labor site, if your child is optional for them to return to a school site and you keep them at home, and as a result, now you need to stay at home, your employer is not obligated to pay you for the EFMLA, which comes as a tax credit, and they're not required to give you that time off. And if you weren't working from home, they can still require, you could stay, they could give you I would probably give them the time off to stay home, but they're not going to get any pay for it. Okay, now if it's not optional, meaning the school says, hey, we're doing distance learning, that's the only choice you have, then the employer does have to offer EFMLA. So the way the law was originally written, it said if the school was closed and then everybody started saying, well, schools are open, we don't have to pay. But the issue got to be is where's the child though, and where are they required to be? So I just did this for one of my clients. We just required documentation that the school had a non-optional policy for distance learning, and they did. It was very easy. He got it to us in, I don't even think it took him 8 hours. It was just a written document. It explained exactly that the school was not open for on-site learning. It was all distance learning. Here were the dates of classes and times, or that the students needed to be present. And that was it. It was easy. And then we put him, the employee, on an EFMLA. Now, if you're able to have your employee work from home and you're comfortable with them kind of working around the schedule, that you may not have to do this either. You may still be able to get the work you need and not have them take an EFMLA. Now, they may choose to do EFMLA. They may say, I'd really rather have the time off, and they do have a right to have it off. So you'll need to work that through with them. There are some exemptions. So if you're under 50 employees, you can do under 50. So write that down somewhere, under 50 employees. And this is not new. None of this is new, you all. This is all from the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, the FFCRA. This is all part of it. You can determine that you're exempt from offering this EFMLA for this childcare or school attendance reason. There is not a lot of details on how you have to do that, but you have to prove that it is like basically you're unable to do it, that it is going to, I think I wrote the exact wording down here. I think I said, it says, I think it said, you have to prove that you would jeopardize the viability of the business as a going concern. So when I've asked attorneys kind of how we do this, the feedback I'm getting anyway is you have to sort of do your own analysis. You would write something up that explains why you cannot offer EFMLA if you're under 50 employees. And this doesn't mean for one employee, this means for any of them. So anyone who asks for EFMLA, they would be an automatic no because you've determined you're exempt due to your size. How do you prove it would jeopardize the viability of the business? That's going to be up to you to work through and to put together a very good statement that explains why you're exempt. And then if you do that, you're going to want to make sure you inform all your employees that you are exempt due to your size, so that none of them ask for it and none of them realize that they know that it's not even an option. Okay. So the change, if you will, as I'm doing in quotes, is that we had to deal with schools now being open, but the law didn't address that. So now we understand that it could apply even if the school is open. And if my child has no other option than to stay at home for distance learning, and I need to be there as the parent. Okay. So something else that a lot of people missed that I want to make sure that they don't is a written return to work plan and training. If anybody is thinking about bringing people back, I know some people have started to do, people can come in the office sometimes, they can come in the office if they want. You need to have had a written return to work plan and training for every single person before they get back to the office. So if you haven't done this yet, because a lot of people haven't, do it now. Write down what the plan is, write down what all your safety precautions are, document the training, make people sign that they took the training, and that they know, where to go if they have questions. So this definitely a key part of bringing people back to work. If your people are also working from home, that's fine. You don't need anything. But even if they're coming in to just stop by, like one of my clients told me, oh, I'm not working in the office right now. She tested positive. I'm not working in the office right now because I tested positive. I just came in on the weekend though to run payroll. And I thought, oh my goodness, you can't just come in on the weekend because we don't know what that's doing to the work environment, right? And then you have employees showing up Monday through Friday. So make sure that if anybody's coming to the work site, you have to have a plan, even if it's just for a casual pick up something, drop off something, run payroll on the weekend, whatever it is. So that leads us perfectly into, many of you have decided, hey, you know what? This work from home thing is going to go on longer than we originally anticipated, and we kind of pieced together an agreement. So let's dust off that agreement, make sure that policy is still good. If you haven't created a work from home policy, do it now if you're going to keep people working from home. And also reference the one that you may have quickly put together in March, April or May. Make sure it's still working for you. It's still accurate. Have you run into any problems? Do we need to revise it and send it out again? And again, like I said, a lot of people are planning this for a while now. So let's get to that and make sure we're doing the reimbursements correctly and all of that. Actively managing your teams and communicating. We're going to talk about this more in that HR series that Christina talked about, really managing remote teams in much more detail. But wow, this is the time, whether your teams are remote or they're in person, they need their leaders to be more present than ever. And if you think back about that gum on the shoe picture that I put up at the beginning, we need you to get unstuck, because they need you to be regularly communicating with them, checking in on their progress, maintaining kind of the status quo, because we need to move forward. I had heard from somebody that they had decided to kind of toss out their performance reviews this year. And I said, why? And they said, well, it's been a really hard year. Well, we don't toss them out. It's more than ever we need to talk about performance. Now, maybe your performance review looks different this year. Maybe you're talking more about the next 12 months instead of the past 12 months, which maybe only ended up being a few months. But let's not start throwing things out, and let's start using COVID as an excuse to sort of not do something. No one likes to do performance reviews. Let's not use it as an excuse to not do something we should do as leaders. So really be evaluating, are you having those good conversations, those tough conversations? How often are you communicating with your team every single day? How often are you doing individual communication? All those things are so important right now. And when you're growing, when you're moving forward and you're going to be bringing in new team members, I'm sure people are going to lose team members in the next few months. We got to be able to keep the team cohesive and together. So very important. Ppe enforcement. So those of you, again, who are bringing people on site, I'm getting a ton of questions about this, about people not wearing their mask correctly. People don't want their temperature taken. Someone thinks that the thermometer is going to harm them in some way. I don't like that hand sanitizer, whatever all the things are. You got to have somebody enforcing it, following that, back to that training that you did to get people back to work. You got to follow the rules. And if you have to start writing people up for not using their PPE correctly, you're going to have to do that. And trust me, I really believe that if you ever get to a termination decision in one of those cases, no one else will ever do it again. Because how ridiculous is that? If it's just a simple thing of me, wearing something the way you want me to wear it. One of my clients, they're having people do a shield and a mask because of the type of business they're in. And, employees, some of the employees said, well, that's discrimination. And it's not discrimination. You're allowed to have safety precautions. You were allowed to have them before COVID, believe it or not. You could have asked for this before COVID. So it's okay, but someone's got to enforce it, and someone's got to make sure that it is being applied consistently. Whatever your rules are, someone's got to make sure those are being done. And I realize that's an extra task for a lot of you that you already probably don't feel you have time for, but it's got to happen. And the last thing I'm going to talk about, and then I'm going to jump up to your questions, so feel free to keep typing those in there, is recruiting. I just want to mention this for a second. Everyone is saying the reason they're left is COVID. So I talked to someone the other day and she said, oh yeah, because of COVID. And it said 2020 on her resume. And I said, oh, what month did you leave? Okay. Well, she left in January, so we weren't having COVID in January. I mean, it was definitely out there, but we weren't experiencing it as terms of a layoff. And with a little more digging, what I found is she was actually terminated from her employment. It had nothing to do with COVID. So you need to ask questions, and kind of, as you're going to be hiring people, we will be doing that again. And you want to remember not to just accept COVID as a blanket excuse. Either ask some additional questions, or be sure to check their employment, do an employment verification to verify reason for leaving. Do the best you can to find out, because a lot of people are using that, like I said, and there's really other reasons that are happening. Not everybody's laid off because of COVID right now. Some people are actually still losing their jobs. Some people are quitting. It's funny, they're quitting. I think some people opted in for unemployment because that got to be kind of a very popular conversation that was going on, that you could be making more money on unemployment, and some people chose that. So I have a lot of clients who are trying to bring people back, and the employees are just not even responding. And so they're hiring now to fill those positions because they've tried everything they can and they're not responding. So those people will be saying because of COVID, I'm sure, and they actually had a job waiting for them. So just be conscious and aware of that. Okay, that was really fast, and I'm sorry, but I wanted to be respectful of your time. So, okay, so one question is about the EFMLA. What is the size limitation? And I am referencing my poster because I always forget this. I actually thought it was, it's just fewer than 500 employees. That's why I always forget that. And they have to be employed for at least 30 days. But there's a poster. There's a whole website on it. So feel free, if you haven't done that, you should really be looking at the Department of Labor. Pull up the Employee Rights poster for the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, FFCRA, and learn that law right away. Yeah, if you haven't done that, you want to get on that, because that came into effect, gosh, does anybody, April 1st. So it's been around for a while now. And as of right now, this will end December 31st. So assuming this doesn't get expanded. And then let's see, I'm separating from a low performer. It's a difficult, troublesome employee, which I understand, who's caring for her mother, but it's not COVID related. She applied for PFL on September 2nd. Do I have to notify her of this? Oh yeah, no, because it's not effective till 1/1. But that's a great question, because some of you are going to have people who may go out on like pregnancy disability leave anywhere between now and the end of the year. And they're going to have that option for that 12-week baby bonding protected time. Now, paid family leave is it's a financial benefit offered through the state for very similar reasons that CFRA is offered. But they run concurrently, because paid family leave is money, and California Family Rights Act, or CFRA, is protected job and benefit. So they actually run concurrently. So yeah, that's another area that you'll be needing to learn. But you may have employees that are going to be eligible for baby bonding time come January. So you'll want to definitely check in on that. Okay, any advice on employees who are working from home and that appear to be underperforming and using COVID as an excuse? Okay, that's a great question. That is so great, and it's timely. It's something we're going to address in the other webinar HR series I'm going to do. But I want to tell you that, I mean, number one is hold them accountable. So have a meeting where you say, listen, I want to go over the expectations of what I need you to get done and have you ask any questions. They ask questions, we work through it. Okay, great. Then you hold them accountable. And then when you say using COVID as an excuse, I don't know what that means. If they're sick, obviously we're going to need to figure that out. But if it's just maybe they're not feeling good or they're feeling a depression or something like that, maybe we offer them a resource. I don't know if you have health benefits that you could offer, that they would have mental health care through, or if you have an EAP. I think EAP programs are going to be very, very vital to every organization this year. And those are employee assistance programs. They're not always the best in terms of, but they do at least provide an outlet for employees to talk to somebody. So I do love that. So yeah, so I would just have that, and I would try to identify what their concerns are, what their issues are, and just work them one by one by one. And what, you know, when you say that COVID is holding you back, talk me through that. What's going on? Maybe do we need to give you a leave of absence? Do we need to give you some time off to get things straightened out at home? And it may just come down to the fact where you're going to say it does not, unfortunately, I understand that you're dealing with personal things, but we still need you to be at work. And this is where the personal and professional collide. And if personal takes over so much that you may have to make a decision, you know, and that does happen, but I'm hoping you won't get to that point. And if we really have a really good, clear conversation and lots of discussion and trying to figure out how, really saying, you know what, you're not performing. And here's the examples. You didn't turn this report in when I expected it. You didn't do this, you didn't do that, whatever it is. So just got to be very clear. And a lot of people are feeling hesitant about speaking to their employees because we have been through so many unusual things this year. But if you intend on continuing to run your organization, must intend on continuing to manage your team. I'm all for, you know, timing and sometimes pausing for a moment and allowing people to catch a breath, but that shouldn't have gone on since, you know, April. People should be somewhat getting into some kind of stride right now, as best as they can, and understanding that things are going to come up and they may set us back a little bit, and then we will move forward again, but we're not going to just keep going backwards, let's say. Okay, I think those are all the questions. So you, oh wait, you know what? I think I had a couple. Okay, I had a couple about that came in advance that I just want to share with you all. So somebody asked me about an HR policy handbook and like making getting a template. You know, I'm not a template person. I will tell you, handbooks certainly can be, there are policies that can be pretty consistent. I know that the California Chamber has a template you can buy. What'll be interesting is trying to select the policies that apply to you. That is sometimes a challenge, and I don't have a solution for that. Because you have to know which ones apply to you, but they try to guide you, but sometimes it's difficult, but at least we'll give you a good place to start. Okay, so then I had a question about 30-minute meal breaks. And if people work 6 hours or less, they can waive that meal break, and they can. Technically, they are supposed to do that in writing. You would just come up with a simple form that says that I did not exceed 6 hours in my workday, and I waived my meal break, and go on from there. If they work they work anytime over 6 hours, you are going to owe them a penalty hour for not taking their meal break. I let them do that one time with a warning. The second time they work over 6 hours, I now schedule them 6.5 hours, and I make them take a 30-minute meal break, regardless of what they promise me, beg, borrow, or steal. I'm going to follow the law because I don't want to get in trouble at all. So that's it. You can create, and if you want to, again, I know the partnership always laughs at me about this. I'm really not a template person. I don't like, we don't make a bunch of templates in my office. We customize everything for our employers and our clients. But I'm sure if you Googled California waiver form, I bet you there'd be one out there. It's super simple. You can just, like I said, it just says that they didn't exceed their 6 hours. Now, technically, they're supposed to sign that at the beginning of their shift, not at the end of their shift. they're supposed to sign. Now, if you have someone who only works 6 hours every day, that's what their schedule is, you could come up with something that you type up that says they're only scheduled for 6 hours and that they are voluntarily waiving their right to a 30-minute meal period. And if they ever change their mind, who to contact, etc. And by the way, put in there for sure that you're at will, and also put in there for sure that the employer has the right to schedule a meal period at any time. This isn't the employee running the show. It's just an option that you can give them. You do not have to do that. It's just an option. For an employee that is leaving, is it required to pay out unused vacation hours? Yes, it is. It is a long-standing law in California that if there is accrued vacation or PTO, you must pay it out upon termination of employment. It's got to go with their final check. The name of the next HR seminar. Oh, Christina, I was
just going to say that one is, I just saw that one, harassment prevention.
It's harassment prevention, but what's the series we're doing?
The HR series, what's funny is that we don't have it on our calendar yet because we're still fine tuning all the details on that one. So I believe that one is not slated up on our calendar just yet, but it will be coming up. It'll actually be a 3-part series of trainings covering working with teams remotely, providing proper supervision, and you're designing it. So I'm trying to remember what the third.
And I think we are actually talking about hiring, onboarding, how to manage them, all the things that we're probably now starting to do, but in a remote setting.
And it's broken up into 3 days to kind of make it a little bit more palatable for everybody, because it is 6 hours of content, over 3 days. So it's 2 hours each day. So that way you're getting kind of, compacted information, but in a more palatable manner. So further information will be coming on for that one, but so I wasn't too sure which one they're looking at, if it's harassment prevention on October 13th, or the HR series, which I believe is taking place in November. We're just getting some more details on that one.
So I mean, I think that it's a lot. Just know, I know what I wrote down, and I was gonna go back and say, I misspoke earlier, and so I wanna make sure I clarify something. There were 3 laws that came out. One of them was for employers with 500 or more employees. That was the first one I think that came out. Then there was the workers' comp, and then there was the CIFRA. I think those are the actual 3. The workers' comp one felt like it was broken up into 2, but I think it actually is under one assembly bill. But you have all the information you need. I don't think we have anybody that's 500 or more employees, but if we do, you can reach out to me and we can sort through that other one. It has to do with sick leave, which people were required to do if you were smaller. So, but you've got what you need, your things, your tasks, your to-do list that you should write down. Call your broker, make an appointment with your workers' comp broker so you can talk to them about what you need to do. Identify any positive cases you've had since July 6th in your workplace, wherever your workplace is, of your employees. How about that? Any positive cases? And then the third thing is to start working on your CIFRA policies and forms, or reach out for help.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Anne, for this information.
Sure.
Always amazing as usual. Thank you for coming up with that so quickly as well, since they just passed those 3 laws yesterday. That is quick work. This is indicative of how Anne is. Once something new comes down the pike, she really figures out what kind of impact this is going to have. How is this going to affect all of us? And is able to put together some really great guides for us. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. I do want to say I did discover, by the way, I found my email with the confirmed dates for the HR series. So that is November 10th, 12th, and 13th. So it's all compacted into 1 week in November. We're going to be covering it's an HR overview, including overview of legal requirements and remote work. Interviewing and onboarding will be the 2nd day, and the 3rd, remote supervision and performance management. So taking a look at all the things that we need for HR management. I want to thank you again, and I wanted to take just a few seconds here if I could, and let me see, saw this through, just making sure. Okay, perfect. All the additional work, and wanted to just thank you again and mention just a few more things on the TNP, because there's tons going on right now that we're trying to get information out to everybody. So in the next 2 weeks alone at the Nonprofit Partnership, we have 2 DEI sessions and workshops. If your organization is looking at your diversity and equity and inclusion policies, or really trying to understand a little bit more about what that is and how you want to bring in some of those policies into your organizations, we're having a a DEI basics workshop next week. And then we're also having the following week, developing your DEI policy. So if you're interested in either one of those, you can find those on TNP's website, tnpsocal.org. And then one last thing, this is something, this is new for us. We're actually having a Meet the Elected official event on September 29th with Assemblymember Monique Lemon, who is the chair of the Assembly Select Committee for Nonprofits. It's our first time engaging with her. We're very excited to have her joining us. And if you have questions about how our California Assembly is working with nonprofits, how you can better connect with them, what are their main projects they're looking at, she's going to be providing all of that information and be available for a little bit of a Q&A. So take a look at that for September 29th. We hope to see you then. And I will put one last plug in here, if I may, for Long Beach Gives. And I am actually going to pop up. If you haven't visited the website, I'm going to show you what it looks like right now. Take a look at the website. This is longbeachgives.org. You can sign up to be reminded to donate on the 24th and get involved if you like. You can find your cause. When you scroll down the site, oh, you can see 5 days till the big giving day. We have 17 different categories of organizations that we're working with this year. So from animal welfare to arts to social justice to working with seniors. You can search all the nonprofits you want. There's over 150 nonprofits participating, and we are already have broken through that $200,000 mark. So we're very excited. This is a beautiful thing happening. This is joy and unity in the face of challenges this year, and 2020 has been giving a lot of challenges, but our community is responding so beautifully. So if your organization is participating in Long Beach Gives, we wish you the best of luck. Continue to reach out to your community members. And if you're not participating, we would still love for you to participate by sharing, by donating, by spreading the word about this campaign. It goes on through September 24th, so hopefully you can get onto the website and take a look at it. We'd appreciate it. And for everybody who's still here, thank you so much for joining us again for today. And this was fantastic. Perfect timing for an HR check-in. We were debating about that date, just like you were saying, and who knew? We picked an auspicious date.
Perfect. It was perfect date.
So until next time from TNP and on behalf of Laguzza with the Worst Consulting, thank you so much, everybody. Have a great weekend. Take care.